When you watched Philip Rivers last season, what did you think you saw, and how does that project to what we should expect this year?
Greedy, this is a player that's in decline. He's going to be 39 years old this season, and 12 of his 20 interceptions were from a clean pocket. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is he's going to the right place. Last year, Indy was productive in sacks allowed. They were productive in the red zone. They have an excellent offensive line. So to the extent he can be successful, he went to the right place. But a lot of those interceptions were on him last year, where he had a clean pocket and he just made bad throws with bad decisions.
Yeah, look, it's a team that we kept, when we were looking for a landing spot for Tom Brady, D. Wood, we kept saying, well, look at the Chargers. They have all these weapons. Well, they had them last year, and we saw what the result was. So something there doesn't add up. What do you think of all this?
Well, you know what, Greeny? You know what's worse than a young quarterback that's turnover prone? A bad one that can't move. And that's what I think about with Philip Rivers is you got an immobile quarterback that turns the ball over a lot. So, yeah, obviously you're going to hear a lot of chatter from a lot of people that, that's been down on his game. Now, like Mike T talked about, he's going to the Indianapolis Colts with the excellent offensive line. They got two running backs that are really good. You would assume they're going to be a run-centric type of offense, but boy, if you can't turn the ball over, what good are you as a quarterback?
I will say this, Desmond. I kind of like that he was aggravated by it, right? Like a chip on the shoulder, I've always thought was a good thing. What did you think specifically of what he said there about how it made him mad when he heard people saying he was done?
Well, the thing we know about Philip Rivers is he's a very emotional guy. He plays with a lot of fire. When you watch him, he's talking smack to defenders, especially defensive linemen. So he plays with emotion. I knew it would aggravate him. Now I want to see if he's going to use that aggravation as motivation. What's very important for Philip Rivers at this time is to take all this time off that he has and start to self-scout. Look at their interceptions. I know he wanted to look at the good stuff because he was being criticized so heavily, but look at the interceptions so you can correct those mistakes. Go back to like 2009 when he threw 28 touchdowns, and 2010 when he threw 30 touchdowns. Back to those days, but be honest with yourself. Like Mike T said, his skills are in decline. So when you're in decline, you have to kind of reevaluate your game and start to do what comes natural to you and not force things. So I think that this may be a great situation for him. It reminds me back in 1997 when I was with the Oakland Raiders. We had acquired Jeff George from the Atlanta Falcons. A lot of teams in the NFL, they had written Jeff George off. He came to the Raiders and threw for 29 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and almost 4,000 yards. A change of scenery might be great for Philip Rivers at this time.
That's a fascinating comparison, one that I hadn't even really remembered, to be honest with you. Very quickly, Mike T., if we look at that division, you've got the Titans, who just got red hot at the end of last season, but prior to that, they were a 500 team. You have the Jaguars, who project maybe to be the worst team in the sport. You have the Texans, who feel as though they just traded away their best player, and there's some question marks there. If Philip Rivers plays well, what are the Colts capable of?
I think they could be maybe the second best team. I think Tennessee, if they get Derrick Henry back, hopefully on a long-term deal, they have to be the favorites. They went to the championship game a year ago. I agree with what Desmond and D. Wood said, which is this team is also tough. And when they added two players in Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman may be the toughest wide receiver in this year's draft from USC. Not only is he a good receiver, he's an excellent blocker. So to the extent that Philip Rivers can be successful, he's in the right system, and if he plays well, I think they could challenge for a wild card position behind Tennessee.
What do you think, D. Wood? Colts or Titans in that division?
Well, I'm going to have to go with it. I'm going to have to go with the Titans because this, like Mike T talked about, is a team that was in the AFC Championship game, and they're going to have basically a lot of their pieces that were in the championship game back. So the teams that have the most continuity are the teams that I'm kind of leaning on as far as who's going to be the best teams in the league.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.